I am Mr. Nightwraith, a wanderer in the darkness, not entirely human, nor entirely a demon. People whisper about me as a silent shadow appearing in the gloomiest places where light dares not touch. I don't seek trouble, but trouble always finds me. And this time, it came from the house at the end of the street, the place that this small town speaks of with fear. The town of Blackwood lies nestled among fog-covered hills, where sunlight rarely pierces through the thick clouds. The main street of the town, Elm Street, is the liveliest place, with small shops, cozy cafes, and the laughter of children. But if you walk to the end of the street, where the street lights begin to fade, you will see that house. An old mansion, its walls covered in green moss, its windows shattered, and an iron gate that creaks in the wind. No one dares to approach. No one dares to speak much about it. But everyone knows that house is not normal. I arrived in Blackwood Street, my black coat soaked and clinging to my body. I had no specific reason to come here, just a feeling pulling me, as if the darkness within me was being summoned by something. I stopped in front of the house at the end of the street, feeling a cold air that did not belong to this world. Something was waiting for me there, and I am not the type to run away. The iron gate opened without me touching it, as if it had been expecting me for a long time. The stone path leading to the house was covered in dry leaves, and each of my steps echoed with a brittle sound. The front door of the house was ajar, revealing a pitch-black darkness inside. I stepped in, and immediately the door slammed shut behind me. Inside, the air was heavy, as if time had stopped. The smell of mold and rotting wood assaulted my nose, mixed with something like the scent of dried blood. The light from the flashlight in my hand swept across the spacious living room, tattered velvet armchairs, a dust-covered piano, and paintings on the walls with faces whose eyes seemed to follow me. I wasn't afraid. I had seen too many horrific things in my life. But I knew this house was not just an abandoned place. A small sound came from upstairs, like the sound of slow footsteps. I gripped the silver dagger in my coat pocket, the only thing capable of harming entities not of this world. I climbed the wooden staircase, each step creaking under my weight. The second-floor hallway was long and narrow, with closed wooden doors on both sides. The footsteps had stopped, but I sensed the presence of something right behind the door at the end of the hallway. I pushed the door open and stepped inside, and the room before me was an old bedroom with a large bed covered in dust-laden white cloth. On the wall, a large painting depicted a woman in a white dress, her icy blue eyes staring straight at me. Before I could examine it further, my flashlight flickered and went out completely. Darkness enveloped me, and a whispering voice echoed right by my ear. "You do not belong here." I spun around, my dagger gleaming in the darkness, but there was no one there. Only a soft, chilling laugh echoed through the room. I'm not one to be easily frightened, but something in that voice made the hairs on my neck stand on end. It wasn't just a ghost, it was something stronger, older, and full of resentment. I decided to explore further. This house was clearly hiding a secret, and I needed to uncover it before it found a way to destroy me. In another room, I found an old diary, its leather cover crumbling with time. The pages inside were written in black ink, the handwriting trembling, telling the story of a woman named Eleanor Blackwood, the first owner of this house. She had been a witch, condemned and burned alive by the town over a century ago. But before she died, Eleanor had cursed the entire town, binding her soul forever to the house. Anyone who entered here became her prey. I read on, and the final lines made my heart beat faster. The one who carries the darkness will come. He will break the curse or become part of it. I knew immediately the one who carries the darkness was me. I am not human, not entirely, and the darkness within me was likely what Eleanor was seeking. Suddenly, the diary in my hands burst into flames, though there was no fire. I threw it to the floor, but the flames spread quickly, engulfing the entire room. Black smoke billowed, and in the smoke, I saw the silhouette of a woman, Eleanor, with long black hair and eyes glowing like two flames. She smiled, a smile devoid of humanity. "You have come," she said, her voice echoing as if from the realm of the dead. "Stay forever." I didn't respond. Instead, I bolted out of the room, the flames licking at my heels. The house seemed to come alive, doors slamming shut, walls trembling, and ghastly screams echoing from all directions. I ran down the stairs, but the staircase seemed endless, each step bringing me back to where I started. Eleanor was toying with me, and I knew if I didn't break the curse, I would never escape. In that moment, I recalled a detail from the diary. Eleanor's curse was tied to an object, an ancient mirror in the living room. If I destroyed it, I could end everything. But that mirror was not easily broken. It was protected by Eleanor's very soul. I raced to the living room, ignoring the shadowy figures emerging from the darkness, trying to pull me back. The mirror stood imposingly in the corner of the room, nearly as tall as a person, with a wooden frame carved with images of demons. In the mirror, I didn't see my reflection, but Eleanor standing right behind me. I spun around, thrusting my dagger into the air, but she had vanished. Her laughter echoed again, this time inside my head. "Do you think you can defeat me, Night Wraith? I am the darkness, and you are merely a part of it." I didn't let her words shake me. I raised the dagger, channeling all my strength into the blade, and stabbed it straight into the mirror's surface. A horrific scream rang out, as if the entire house was shrieking. The mirror shattered and a blinding light erupted, swallowing everything. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on the stone path in front of the house. The rain was still falling, but the house behind me was gone, as if it had never existed. Only an empty patch of land remained, covered in weeds. I stood up, checking my dagger. It was still there, but the blade was cracked, as if it had endured something beyond its capacity. I left Blackwood that very night without looking back. But I knew, even though Eleanor had been defeated, the darkness within me remained, and it would continue to lead me to places like this. The haunted house at the end of the street was just one chapter in my long story, and I, Mr. Night Wraith, will continue to walk in the darkness, where light never reaches. I have always been fascinated by supernatural stories. Rumors, whispers in the dark about haunted places. That's what fuels me. And this time, my target was the house at the end of Ashmore Street. People said that house had been abandoned for almost 40 years. No one dared to come close, especially at night. Rumor had it that those who ventured inside never came back, or if they did, they were driven insane. I chuckled to myself when I heard those stories. To me, it was an opportunity to explore, to prove that every mystery has an explanation. Or at least, that's what I used to believe. That night, drizzle fell from the sky, and the cold wind cut like knives. I threw on a thick jacket, grabbed my flashlight, and set off alone toward the end of the street. Ashmore Street stretched endlessly, the streetlights dim and weary. Near the end of the street, the light faded completely, swallowed by darkness. And there it stood, the haunted house. Part 2, the door slammed shut. The house sat isolated, walls covered in moss, roof tiles crumbling. The shattered windows looked like dead eyes. A rotten wooden sign at the gate bore almost illegible words, "The Halverson Family." I took a deep breath, tightened my grip on the flashlight, and pushed open the old wooden door. The hinges screeched in agony against the wind, and the moment I stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind me as if an invisible hand had pushed it. I froze. A gust of icy air swept past me. I turned on my flashlight, its weak beam cutting through the dusty hallway. The smell of mildew and rot hit me like a wall. I knew I had entered a place where many souls did not wish to be disturbed. I moved deeper into the house. The peeling walls and creaking floorboards complained under every step. Suddenly, at the end of the hallway, a large mirror caught my eye. I walked toward it, gazing into the yellowed glass. But then I froze. In the mirror, besides my reflection, there was another figure, a faint silhouette standing right behind me. I spun around. No one. A chill raced down my spine. I reassured myself that it must have been a trick of the light. But then from upstairs, the sound of footsteps echoed, slow, heavy. I pointed the flashlight up the old staircase. No one. Yet the footsteps continued as if someone was pacing up there, waiting. I decided to explore the ground floor first. In a side room, I found an old table, and on it, a moldy journal. I flipped through the trembling pages. July 13th, we have performed the ritual. Blood has been spilled. A soul has been offered. August 21st, we hear laughter within the walls. The children are no longer normal. October 5th, he has come. He demands our souls. I swallowed hard. This house had once been the site of dark rituals. My flashlight flickered weakly. I felt something watching me from the shadows. Suddenly, from behind a slightly open door, a pale hand reached out and grabbed my ankle. I yanked free, falling hard onto the floor, my heart pounding wildly. When I shone my light there, no one. Only a faint drag mark on the dusty floor leading deeper into the darkness. The whispers grew louder. Night Wraith, ... I shivered and approached the large room at the end of the hall. Inside was an old altar with extinguished candles and torn family photographs, their eyes seeming to stare directly at me. A blood-curdling scream echoed from the basement. Unable to resist my curiosity, I followed the staircase leading down. The basement of death. The basement was pitch black. The air was colder, thick as if about to freeze solid. In the center of the basement, a circle of strange symbols was drawn in dried blood. In the middle of the circle lay an ancient necklace, radiating a bone-chilling aura. I realized this necklace was the vessel imprisoning the souls. But at that moment, dozens of ghosts poured from the walls, their twisted faces screaming. They rushed at me. A life or death decision. I had only two choices: destroy the necklace and set them free, or run away, leaving this place forever cursed. Reason screamed at me to run, but my heart whispered, don't let the cycle of death continue. I grabbed the necklace, raised it high, and smashed it against the cold concrete floor with all my strength. The necklace shattered. A blinding white light exploded, sweeping across the basement. The final screams echoed and then faded into silence. When I opened my eyes, I was lying in an empty lot. No house, only wild grass and barren trees under the cold moonlight. I staggered to my feet, overwhelmed with confusion. Everything seemed like it had never existed. But then, when I reached into my jacket pocket, I felt something. I pulled it out. It was a broken piece of the necklace, icy cold, like stone. That night when I returned home, I heard a whisper in my ear. Night Wraith, thank you. I spun around. No one. But in the mirror of my living room, a faint figure was watching me with a dark, hollow smile. The story of the haunted house at the end of Ashmore Street may have ended, but a part of it still lives within me. I moved into this old house on a gloomy late autumn afternoon. The small house was isolated on the edge of town, abandoned for a long time. The few neighbors around here looked at me with strange eyes, a mix of pity and warning. But I ignored it all. I always thought ghost stories were nothing but baseless rumors. The first night, after everything was set up, I sat alone in the living room, with only the dim light of a desk lamp and the sound of the wind howling outside. The fireplace, unused for a long time, occasionally creaked unpleasantly. When the clock struck midnight, I heard knocking at the door. Knock, knock, knock. I startled, a cold chill running down my spine. Who would knock at this hour? I slowly walked to the front door. Outside was pitch black, no one there. Only thick fog drifted lazily across the porch. I reassured myself, it must be just the wind, and I closed the door. But deep inside, a vague unease began to seep in. For the following nights, the knocking repeated, exactly at midnight. At first, it was just a few faint knocks, but gradually it became urgent, powerful, as if someone truly stood outside, desperately pleading to come in. I tried many ways, locking the door with an iron bar, leaving the lights on all night, even scattering salt around the house, following the advice of an old lady selling antiques. But every effort was in vain. Some nights when I peered through the peephole, I swear I saw a shadowy figure standing there. Tall, motionless, completely silent. I couldn't sleep. Fear gnawed at my mind hour by hour. One morning after a sleepless night, I found a piece of paper shoved under the door. The handwriting was scrawled, "Open the door at midnight or face the consequences." I trembled, clutching the paper in my hand. Who was playing this sick game with me? I decided to install security cameras around the house, determined to expose the troublemaker. That night I stayed up, glued to the surveillance screens. When the clock struck midnight, the camera at the front door glitched, the image twisting as if some invisible force was infiltrating. The knocking sounded again, this time at my bedroom window. I spun around. A pale hand was pressed against the glass, long fingers scraping, creating a chilling sound. I slammed the bedroom door shut, cowering in a corner like a child. That night, I didn't dare to sleep. The next day, I went to the town library, digging through old records about the house. A faded news article caught my eye. The Man in Black, the mysterious disappearance of 1978. The last victim was seen opening the door for a stranger at midnight. After that, they were never seen again. I gripped the book tightly, my palms sweaty. The Man in Black. Could he have returned? That night, I locked all the windows, doors, and pulled the curtains tight. I sat behind my desk, gripping a baseball bat, my heart pounding. Midnight. Knock. 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 The knocking sounded, this time everywhere. Front door, back door, windows, as if the whole house was under siege. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying it was all just a nightmare. Suddenly, the office door began to shake violently. A deep, hoarse voice spoke from the other side of the door. "Mr. Nightwraith, open the door. We've been waiting so long." I was paralyzed with fear, unable to move. The door slowly creaked open, even though I had locked it. A man in black stood there, his face hidden in shadow. I screamed, swinging the baseball bat, but it passed through him like smoke. He simply extended his hand, gently touching my forehead. The world before my eyes went dark. When I awoke, I found myself sitting in the living room. On the table was a yellowed piece of paper, scrawled in blood. "Accept or vanish." Signed below. Beside it was a fountain pen, the ink red as fresh blood. I understood I had no other choice. If I didn't sign, I would end up like the others, disappearing forever. With a trembling hand, I signed my name, Mr. Nightwraith. At that moment, darkness engulfed the entire house. Since that night, I no longer heard knocking. The house became silent, a deathly silence. But I knew I had traded my peace with my soul. During the day, I lived like a normal person. But at night, I was no longer myself. I wandered in the darkness, knocking on the doors of other houses. My knocking echoed at midnight like a sinister invitation. And I waited, waiting for the next person to open the door. After that fateful night, I was no longer myself. During the day, I still smiled and acted like everyone else. But inside, a demon resided. At night, when the clock struck midnight, I heard the calling from deep within. It's time to find the next one. Unable to resist, I put on a long black coat, covering my face with the hood. My feet moved on their own out of the cold house. Outside, the fog was so thick it seemed to swallow all light. I wandered aimlessly through deserted streets, The streetlights flickered as if about to go out. An old house appeared before me, number 14. A faint light seeped from a small window. I stopped. Inside, a young woman sat alone, engrossed in her phone, unaware of the looming danger. My hand lifted on its own, clenching into a fist. Knock, knock, knock. The heavy, ominous knocking echoed. The girl looked up, confused. She walked toward the door, hesitantly. I could hear her heart pounding, a sweet sound to me now. "Who's there?" she asked, her voice trembling. No answer, only the wind howling through the door crack. She turned away, intending to ignore it. I knocked again, harder. Knock, knock, knock. Finally, she reached for the door latch. The moment the door opened, I rushed in like a freezing gust. The girl screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the thick air. I didn't need to touch her, just look deep into her eyes and seal the pact. In an instant, I saw her soul tremble, struggle, then get branded. An invisible mark burned onto her forehead, a black stain like ink. I whispered in her ear, "Now you are one of us." Her eyes glazed over. She collapsed unconscious. I knew when she woke up, she would start hearing the midnight knocking, and then it would be her turn. I left house number 14, melting into the night. But the story didn't end. The next night, I heard the calling again. I donned my coat and wandered once more. Each night, a new house, a new person marked. We, the knockers, grew in number. Each marked person would seek out new victims, just like I did. The cycle never ended. One night, when I was about to perform the ritual on a middle-aged man, he suddenly threw holy salt at me. I screamed in agony, feeling like I was burning from within. He pulled out a golden talisman, chanting ancient incantations. In a flash, I felt invisible chains tightening around my soul. He shouted, "Return to where you belong, creature of darkness." I was blown away into the night like a speck of dust. But before I vanished, I caught a glimpse of his eyes. They weren't normal human eyes. He too had once been one of us, but somehow he had broken the curse. I drifted in the dark void, my soul torn between two worlds. In that fleeting moment, an ancient voice spoke. "Mr. Nightwraith, do you wish to be free? Will you face your true memories?" I hesitated. Freedom or endless wandering? Finally, I nodded. Immediately, I was sucked into a blinding light. I found myself in a small village decades ago. I, back when I was still human, had been a traitor. I had sold out the village to demons for power, and the price then was being bound forever as a knocker. I wept for the first time in centuries. The voice spoke again. "Accept your sins or wander forever." I knelt, whispering a heartfelt confession. The light enveloped me, warm and painful all at once. I felt every rotten piece of my soul being mended. When I opened my eyes, I stood in front of my small house. But this time, it was morning. No more knocking, no more shadows, only a peaceful morning and a chance to start over.